Right.
Mm.
Well, salutations, fellow idiots. Welcome back to yet another episode of Full Moon Madness. We are live once again. I am joined by my good buddy Septum Sin of Septum Sin versus the World. And we are going to take a look at some print media today. We got our Charlie Band book bundles that we got. I think it was October, wasn't it? Tail end of there? Because the pre-order was for like midway through November or something like that.
Awesome deal.
It really was, man. I mean, especially the trust that they put into people with it, because you could fully just get it on Amazon, and then they would have sent you the movies before they would have charged you for the pre-order, and then you could just cancel it.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine a lot of people did that. We were legit about it. We actually got our shit, and we got the book. We are going to take a little bit of a look at that. We're not going to go super in-depth on it, but we'll give you a brief rundown of what's included in there. And we're going to take a look at the films that we got as part of the deal. I believe it was 7 free DVDs, or 4 free Blu-rays, or you could mix and match, which was pretty cool. You didn't have to choose just one. You can say what you want about Full Moon and their customer service sometimes, but they were Johnny on the spot with those book deals, man. I think it was like 3 days for me, and I'd already gotten my code to redeem for the films. I imagine we took drastically different routes with the films that we chose, so it should be an interesting variety of stuff here. We're going to christen this little Fireball Cinnamon. It is whiskey, isn't it?
Yep, whiskey.
Yeah, there we go. I got some of these. Not in my stocking, but, just as well. A little gift bundle for the holiday season here. So we're going to ring in it's not the new year yet, but the new episode. Oh, that's easy drinking. It's a good thing I only have these little bottles. I'd be in trouble. All right. So I guess before we jump into the films, we should probably take a look at the book. And that is Confessions of a Puppet Master. This was a biography that was co-written by Charles Band and Adam Felber. Charlie's a busy dude, so I imagine that guy just kind of helped dictate the stuff or whatever as Charlie spit stories out at him. It features appearances by Marilyn Monroe, Demi Moore, Helen Hunt, Bill Maher. I can never understand how to say that guy's name. John Carpenter, Viggo Mortensen, Stan Winston, Gary Busey on a sugar high, Liberace, an ambitious Italian auctioneer, and countless more wild and crazy characters. I forget who it was put out by. Morrow Press, it looks like. And, it's basically broken up into various little segments, chapters, if you will. I like how they have the featurettes in between different chapters, kind of harkens back to the video zones and stuff like that. So in terms of page count, we've got 273 pages, including the acknowledgments. So it's not ridiculously long. It's got, chapter 1 is The Italian Job, and that is followed by a featurette called Head of the Family and That Tongue. Then we have Coming to America, The Hollywood Kid in 3D, and then another featurette called Coming Right At You, I'm assuming to do with more 3D stuff. In the Toilet, The Italian Job 2 Roman Boogaloo, with a featurette called PX I Love You, La Dolce Vita, and The Fall of the Roman Empire, with a featurette called The Bachelor Party. So the first 8 chapters, it looks like, kind of covers his life through the Charlie Band production days, all the way up to Empire, its formation, its downfall. And then after that, we have chapter 9, Full Moon Rising, with a featurette called Master of Puppets. Probably owe Metallica some money for that one. I don't know that they invented the term Master of Puppets. They just used it on one of the most iconic thrash albums of the 1980s. But, I mean, that had me very pleased when I looked at that, because it shows that they're not skimping. It's not just covering Full Moon's history. It's covering properly Charlie Band's history from, front to back pretty much. After that, we go into Unreal Estate and a featurette called The One with Jay Leno. We have a chapter called Vlad the Finagler with a featurette called Stretching Time with David Allen and Stop Motion Animation. Probably the chapter I am looking forward to reading the most. As you guys that followed the show know, I absolutely fucking love the David Allen stop motion. I think anybody that's a fan of classic Full Moon has a soft spot in their heart for that. And then it closes out with Band on the Run, a featurette called The Joy of Fake Sex, which I imagine is interesting as well. And the final chapter, Buried Treasures. And then we have the afterword, all that kind of standard stuff that you get in, these types of books, right? I haven't read too many biographies in my day, but I've read several. And, they're usually a cool insight. I imagine a lot of it in there is stories that Charlie has told over the years. But, I imagine there's a lot of stuff in there that is new as well when he was plugging it at the different conventions and stuff. He was definitely making a point not to go too in depth. So I imagine there's some dirt in there that we haven't quite heard before. Now, it being Charlie, might want to take some of that shit with a grain of salt, if you know what I'm saying. Michael McNally is up in here. He says, hello, gentlemen. How to do, Michael? Yo. It's nice to see you. You are a regular viewer of this stuff. I appreciate it, bud. So we're going to dive into the movies now, and I'm going to let you go first since you're our guest this evening, Brandon. And you can show us the first couple pickups if you like.
One of the things I wanted to just throw out there, I don't know why I thought it was 8. I had like 3 or 4 orders at that time, so I was trying to go through my receipts to try and figure out which ones.
Right.
So I threw out 7 from those orders, and then I had an 8th, and I thought about that one because it was an extra that I got, and Jake, I gave the extra to him for a Christmas gift, which you can see in this past week's pickup video that we did on our channel, which was Blood Dolls.
Heck yeah, such a good movie.
Now, I have never seen, actually, I don't know if I've seen any of these. A lot of them were on your recommendation, but it looks fun. I have not really not really, heard much about that. Now, one I did see, though, is Castle Freak. And I know this one for sure was on my freebies because this was a must get.
Hell yeah, dude. It is easily one of their best movies, if not the best movie in the late 90s catalog of Full Moon. And if we ever get that goddamn Bride of the Head of the Family, Blood Dolls was supposed to cross over with that. So
this one's the remastered version. I don't know whether that was whether they did a lot with it. I wanted to get it on Blu-ray, but I couldn't pass up, free.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't speak to previous DVD releases of Castle Freak because I went from having it on VHS to having that same version you have there. It does look and sound really nice, though.
It's one of the ones, actually one of the few that my wife can say definitively she has seen that's Full Moon.
Hell yeah, it's a good one too. It's got that titty rip in there. That's a good one to show the wife.
Yeah, I've seen that one, so I can't say.
Dude, I think you're absolutely gonna love Blood Dolls, just based on your taste, and it's actually one that I think Jake would get a big kick out of too. It's more like just kinky and hilarious than it is grotesque or anything like that. So yeah, I mean it's solid grab. Like I said, it's my personal favorite in the late 90s catalog, next to Head of the Family. Those are like the 2 powerhouses where they still had that full moon magic, but they were introducing a bit of that sleaze that unfortunately they let kind of take over for a little bit, and then they started getting real cheap with it in the early 2000s. But you see sort of that balance of where Full Moon's gotten nowadays with their stuff begin right there with Head of the Family, Hideous, Blood Dolls, those movies. I guess Creeps to a certain extent. But you also see the cheapness of early 2000s Full Moon starting with Creeps. So it's an interesting sequence of movies to watch through. And it was all kind of Charlie Band coming back and directing movies after several years of being too busy to actually direct. So he really kind of just started banging absolute gems out there for a little bit. He did Head of the Family, he did Hideous, Blood Dolls, and he did Goobers for Moonbeam, and one other one in there. Oh, the Creeps. Yeah, so he came back with the Tiny Terrors stuff and just had a blast with it, and then they went fucking broke when the home video market kind of started falling out. And then the cheap movies that we see from Full Moon is the stuff that they were doing just to kind of stay afloat while they were surviving basically on the income from Full Moon road shows, which I really wish that I could have went to one of those. Hopefully they bring them back. So on a far less wholesome note, I went for the Full Moon Grindhouse collection because that's something I've been trying to complete. And I figured, I had about 8 of them previous to this, and I wanted to bang out as many as I could for free. So I just went ahead and got 7 more of them, like all 7 that they had in stock at the time. Our first 2 films here, a couple of Nazi exploitation flicks. We have Deported Women of the SS Special Section. This sounds like it's basically about these women that are like, going through your standard women in prison stuff in this Gestapo transit camp. And there is like, I think this doctor that ends up, oh no, excuse me. This is the one where it's kind of like The Great Escape, but a sleazy Nazi exploitation film. So this one girl like rallies all the other girls to make their escape, These Nazi exploitation flicks are usually pretty fucking filthy. That's sort of the point. They were a huge thing in the 70s for a while there. I think they kind of have fallen off in modern times because people are pretty sensitive about that stuff. But back then it was like fresh enough that it would still offend people, but it had been long enough that it, was like a good 30 years after World War II at this point. So it wasn't going to like be as offensive as it would have been if they were doing them in like the 60s. No one would have ever fathomed to do that. And then we have Fraulein's in Uniform, another Nazi exploitation flick right here. Basic gist of this one is there's like this doctor, I think, that takes, pity on these girls that have joined like this special section, like a women's section of the Gestapo or whatever. But then it turns out that they're just being used as like sex objects and degraded and all that kind of stuff. And so he takes pity on them and like tries to encourage them to escape or whatever. And most of the time there is some sort of a redeeming quality to those films. The Nazis usually get their comeuppance. I mean, it's not like glorified propaganda or anything like that. It's the Nazi veneer on the movies is just simply there to make them a little bit more offensive, and that's kind of what you're going for with those sleazy sort of exploitation films. So.
I don't know. I think we're starting to get back into some of that Nazi centered. I watched Sky Sharks not long ago, and that one.
Oh yeah.
That one is the Nazis aren't necessarily the good guys or anything, but they're definitely very present. I mean, of course, Nazi Sky Sharks. You can't go wrong with that.
No, not at all. And then we also had, what was it? We've had some other ones, like Overlord was another horror film that was like, centered on World War II and shit. We also had the Dead Snow movies. I think they kind of started bringing it back. So you see it. It's not as filthy as it was in the 70s, and that's probably for the best. There's plenty of those to go discover and watch if you want to see that kind of shit. Truth be told, not my favorite subgenre of exploitation films. I'd rather just watch a women in prison movie. And it's not because the Nazi stuff offends me. It's just there's so many of them that it gets kind of boring. But, they get crazy with some of them. Anyway, you got a couple more there for us?
Oh, of course. Well, I have 8 precisely total. So it works out well with the 2. So this one I remember on your channel when you were doing the Full Moon Madness, and that was Lurking Fear.
Hell yeah.
I saw that you were kind of on the fence of it when you were review, but it looked really fun. So I had to check into it. I love me a good, people trapped in a house while monsters try to get in type movie, and this looks like
those siege flicks, I think they call them.
So that's pretty cool. I like the concepts. So even though this wasn't necessarily recommended, I know that a lot of one of my purchases was based off. Actually, one of my purchases for the Halloween sale. That's the one that I asked your recommendations for, and I pretty much got everything that you recommended on the list.
Hell yeah, dude! Good on you. It's Lurking Fear is fun. It's fun. It's just it's got some wasted potential in there. It was one that I loved as a kid. If you remember from the review, it was like a frequent rental for me. And I still absolutely love the poster art. The cast is great. The creature design is awesome. It just feels like it could have been more than it was. And a lot of that boils down to that being the movie where their shit with Paramount started to break down. So they lost like funding that probably would have made the movie better. But you can't go wrong with that cast, man. And you got Ashley Lawrence, or Ashley Loren, as she was billed as, because she was like embarrassed to be doing this kind of shit. She's in there actually in one of her best roles, in my opinion. So,
Now, my other one is on the list, believe it or not. It's one of the recommended by you, I believe, which was Hideous.
Hell yes.
Now, this looks like a classic type of full moon jam right here. So, and I think you did do a full moon feature for this one.
Not yet. I did talk about it fairly extensively in the pickup segment because it's
Okay, that's
rad.
great.
I'm kind of saving that one because it does cross over with Demonic Toys too. So if you're interested in picking that up at some point, just have it along with Demonic Toys and all the other stuff. Hideous does, the main villain. I guess they're not really villains in Hideous. You'll understand when you see it, but one of the main like freak collectors in Hideous is one of the main people in Demonic Toys too.
So that's my my extra 2 there.
Both great grabs, man. Like I said, Hideous is part of that trifecta of awesome late 90s full moon gems that I think should be in every collection. I mean, it's and Lurking Fear too. Why not? The cover art alone is worth buying the movie for, and Jeffrey Combs' performance. So
That
here's
sounds
to it,
fun.
Jeffrey. He's in there drinking some old like Catholic wine or whatever and that shit. There's a good chance he might have been actually drunk when he was filming the movie. Okay, so next up, I've got a couple more Grindhouse flicks. Everything I got is from Full Moon's Grindhouse collection, which we'll talk more about my progress with that once we finish up showing the films here. But this one, Zambo. It's basically White Tarzan. It's like White Savior Complex, the movie. The dude, I guess, is on the run from for some crime that he didn't commit. So he goes to Africa and ends up becoming like this White Tarzan dude. And he befriends all the animals and the natives and becomes a protector of all, And I imagine there's like some guerrilla cocaine smugglers or something that gets involved. A lot of these movies had that kind of shit going on. Rad cover art. Looks like it's got, some sweet 70s perms and possibly some naked ladies and some really ridiculous outfits that would probably get, dinged for cultural appropriation or something nowadays. It looks bad. It looks real bad, but I'm looking forward to checking it out all the same.
So you gave me an idea for a movie, like guerrilla cocaine dealers, except they're actually gorillas.
Fuck yeah, dude.
That.
Maybe the Polonias would let us do that as part of the Empire of the Apes thing.
Yeah, exactly. I could see a couple of them doing drug deals.
Now, this one is an absolute gem. This is one of those films that will surprise you, particularly if you grew up owning a copy of the bootleg of its other title, which it's far more infamous under. And that is White Slave, aka Cannibal Holocaust 2, the Catherine Miles story. Now, it's not an official sequel, because I'm sure you're familiar, Brandon, with how they would do that with Grindhouse movies back in the day.
Yeah.
They'd make a movie in like Italy or Spain or somewhere and try to totally bill it as if it's, a sequel to a popular American film or a popular film from those countries. And most of the time they're absolute. What's that? Oh yeah, Cruel Jaws is a really infamous one as well. This though, however, is, I don't even know if it's infamous outside of like my circle of friends because we really loved it. I still love it. I've revisited it since getting this copy. It's the same cut of the movie that I had, just with a different title and cover art on the bootleg. But it's actually I think it's kind of better than Cannibal Holocaust in some ways. Not only is it like a true sequel, even though it's not official, it is kind of the better movie if you want to see like the basic Cannibal Holocaust stuff, except without all the animal cruelty, or I don't even know if it's cruelty because they did eat the animals, the natives and stuff in that movie. But if you don't want to see all the animal violence, White Slave, aka Cannibal Holocaust 2, is the way to go. It does have some animal violence, but it's like nature footage, animal on animal violence, because that was kind of a requirement of those jungle movies. But essentially, it's kind of like Dances with Wolves in a 70s cannibal movie. Like this girl, Catherine Miles, her parents get murdered. She ends up getting abducted by this group of cannibals. And it turns out, you know, I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but maybe they're not the cannibals. Maybe this other tribe is. Maybe they aren't even the ones who killed their parents. You got to get into all of it and get in the thick of it and just enjoy it. But man, is it surprising, because again, you know, you're kind of trained to think that those faux sequels are all going to suck. When I got this in high school on the bootleg, I was absolutely blown away by how good it was. So definitely a gem in general, and easily one of the best movies in Full Moon's Grindhouse collection. So back to you, buddy.
That sounds like a legit fun flick.
Yeah, it should definitely get a copy. If you know, if you enjoyed Cannibal Holocaust, the first one, on any level, you kind of owe it to yourself to at least see it. So even if you don't buy it, just like stream it on the Tubi or wherever, you know.
I've got a lot planned to watch. I mean, I admit I'm probably going to try and knock out a couple more Christmas ones before the weekends. But otherwwise, that, like, I got Psycho Santa 1 and 2 sitting there. But, you know, you ever get that to where it just adds up? They just stack, and you're sitting there going, well, when I retire, I'm going to have one heck of a stack of stuff to go through.
I feel that, yeah. Mostly I'm like stubbornly just trying to get through it, you know. With the Full Moon stuff, I tend to make good progress. With my other movies, not so much. So yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat with you there, I think. But
I make fast progress, but then I run into Have Gun Will Travel, and then that kind of slows me down.
Hey, respect though, dude. You were putting those fucking episodes away.
2 more seasons. So another one that I know is on your recommendation list. And actually, I think both of these were on your recommendation list. One I need to see. I think I saw it back in the day. Was Dr. Mordred.
Fuck yeah.
Now, I mean, the fact that it was meant to be a Doctor Strange movie, and, you know, I think that would have been pretty cool if, like, say, the Roger Corman Fantastic Four, they'd made alterations to it and said, okay, well, we're going to get it released anyway. We'll just call it something different. You know, I swear that's probably how it would go if they had gotten enough time. And this does look like it would be a lot of fun. I mean, from what I've heard from you, but not just you, but other people have said that they really love this thing. And I swear I've seen it.
You very well might have, or you've seen enough of it in like Full Moon sizzle reels and video zones to be familiar with it.
Just one of those. You know how it is. It's one that's like, if it's been a number of years, and if I've seen it, it would have probably been back like probably in the this is what came out in the late 80s, early 90s, something like that.
Ooh, I want to say, like, I could be totally wrong here, but I want to say like 93.
Yeah,
it should say on the back of the DVD there down at the bottom. Full Moon's usually real good about having
92.
There we go. See, I wasn't too far off. I'm kind of proud of that.
Yeah, I probably would have ended, if I saw it, it probably would have been something like came to TVs, so probably 93, 94, maybe sometime in that. So that's been longer than I'd like to admit. So it might be that I've seen it.
Oh, that's good, dude. I mean, there's a reason I got the poster prominently displayed, and I kind of bungled it the other night with Dave because I had definitely had like too much to drink by that point in the stream. But they really missed an opportunity not to just go ahead and do their own Avengers thing with like Dollman, Dr. Mordred, Mandroid. You know, there's plenty of villains that they could have had team up against that whole thing. They could have got the puppets involved. They missed an opportunity not doing it. And I fully believe in my heart that had they not lost the deal with Paramount when they did, it was something that would have materialized eventually.
So, you know, they should have done a team up with the Puppet Master and the Demonic Toys.
Yeah.
Interesting thing.
Anything better than the fucking turd of a Versus movie that we got between them would have been rad. Did you have another one you wanted to show, or?
Yeah, sorry, I got distracted.
Oh, no worries. It's easy to do. Oh my God, that is such a good movie.
This one not only I think was on your recommendations list, which kind of comes in the. It is interesting when I think of this as Full Moon because of the year it came out, because it was more during the Empire days when this came out. I mean, this came out the year I was born, 1979.
Yeah, dude, even before Empire, that was Charlie Band Productions days back in like the Laser Blast, Tourist Trap, you know, that era of stuff.
So I think this was on your recommended list. It looks like just general sci-fi fun. A lot of people gravitate towards the Charlie Band horror stuff, but to me, some of my favorite stuff from them comes from their sci-fi
Yeah,
fantasy style movies. I remember watching a ton of those in the Empire Days and some in Full Moon, and I always thought they were really fun when they did those.
for sure. They don't get enough credit for it, man. I mean, it's easy to pay more attention to the horror stuff because they did do more of it, but the fantastical sci-fi fantasy type stuff is what made Charlie Band and Full Moon unique, is that they didn't ever just do, only horror. They always had like that fantastical element. Dr. Mordred's another great example of something that fits in really well with that shit.
That's my
They
there.
both absolute bangers, dude. The Daytime Ended is not only one of my favorite Charlie Band movies that he's ever done, it's easily in my top 10 favorite science fiction films of all time anymore. I think it's just so good. I don't want to say too much because I want you to enjoy it, but the twist at the end is fucking nuts, and it just has this wholesome, like, comforting vibe to it, even though it is kind of creepy at different parts. It's best way I could describe it is if you mixed like E.T. and like, or if you mixed like Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. before any of that shit ever happened, So one of the many times Charlie Band has been ahead of the curve, So our next film here is another one of those faux sequels that we mentioned earlier, and that is The Possessor. This is billed as like the return of the Exorcist in other territories. It is 100% trying to be a sequel to The Exorcist. I mean, just even at a glance, you can tell that it's not an accident. It's very much intentional. And I have not watched it yet. Seal is still on that bad boy because it's not the type of movie you prioritize. But I will get to it eventually, hopefully with an appropriate amount of beer in me so that I can enjoy it the way it's meant to be enjoyed, which is just as a piece of crap. But yeah, I mean, it's, right on the first lines on the back too. They're already trying to compare it to The Exorcist, the Amityville Horror, and The Omen. Jeez, casting a wide net there. It's got super fucking awesome cover art though, right? Look at that.
Oh, I like that. It's definitely showing off the Exorcist vibes there. They
Oh yeah,
generally want you to think Exorcist when you're getting that.
for sure. Nothing can satisfy her unholy hungers. So hopefully that means there's some copious nudity in there.
Or she's really hungry and eats a lot of pizza.
I could get down with that too. That sounds like a good time. And then after that, we've got The Tormentor, or just Tormentor. I don't know why I said The Tormentor. Probably because it's a Creator song, and I really like it. The thrash song is probably much better than this film. It does look like it kind of goes for a bit of a Maniac vibe when you look at it. Basic gist of it is this photographer lady that's living in Rome accidentally witnesses a murder. They start trying to figure out who committed this murder and unwittingly become targets of the murderer himself, which sounds like a fun sort of unique angle for a Giallo-style slasher flick or whatever. Can't say again, it's kind of right there with The Possessor of being like not super high on my priority list, but look at that cover art, man. And doesn't it kind of invoke a little bit of that New York Ripper Maniac sort of vibe with it? I mean, it's you could almost say it's like a combination of the posters for both those movies in a sense. And I just, maybe I'm shallow when it comes to some of this stuff, but I'm happy to have the shit, even if it looks like garbage, just because the cover art is rad. I think Full Moon actually has little 11x17 like Grindhouse style prints of these available, so I will be, purchasing some of those at some point.
Well, definitely not to be confused with The Tormented, which is an older film. One I think they did on Mystery Science Theater, but I actually found it creepy even on that show, which is funny. Which that's a rare thing when you.
It is, it's happened, but it definitely is rare when, despite their riffing, it's still kind of unsettling,
So another one, both of these I think are recommended by you. One you were talking about recently. which I'll talk with that one first, which is the remastered, uncut version of Crash.
Dude,
I remember
movie.
seeing you mention this recently.
Yeah, I got it just for historical purposes, but man, did I like that when I watched it the other day.
It looks like a really fun, just constant action film. I mean, 1976, another one of those old ones prior to my time.
It lives up to the cover, dude, and there's a part where a lady possesses a wheelchair and fights a Doberman. So, yeah.
Well, that right there. It's right up there with in the Stephen King movie, The Trucks, where the toy truck caves a person's head in. That's just right there.
You can't go wrong.
The poster just looks really awesome. That is a really neat poster.
Dude, I guess Charlie is well known for like having this Raiders of the Lost Ark style storage unit full of all his movie hoarding, because he collects in addition to like his own stuff, just other shit. Mm-hmm. But David Dakota was talking about in some interview that he went in there with Charlie for something, and he had like just this massive copy of the original artwork for Crash, like the original painting that they used for that cover. And just seeing that in person, I imagine, is such a majestic thing, you know. But
that's got to be freaking awesome when you see it.
Yeah.
Now, the last one I have is another one that I believe is on your recommended list, which is Dark Angel, The Ascent.
Oh, yeah. Definitely, dude.
So, again, I saw that, and again, whether it was on the sale or the buy a 7, we'll just say the get 7 deal for all intents and purposes. I think that's a pretty cool looking cover. Again, does very well with the art on there. It advertises what I'm guessing is in the movie.
Yeah, it's accurate. When you see the original poster for Dark Angel, which actually, fun fact, I am going to have on order here very, very soon. Cool. It's just so awesomely full moon that it bums me out they didn't use it for the cover of that. Like Crash uses the original cover art, Daytime Ended uses the original cover art. Dark Angel, for whatever reason, they went with that, and it's fine. You're right, it is accurate. But god damn, like that shit, the original artwork's the type of stuff you'd want to paint on the side of a badass van or something, you know.
My cat wants to.
Such a good movie, though. It is essentially The Little Mermaid with Satan. You know, the girl, she's a demon chick, wants to come up and see what the real world's like. So she goes ahead and does that, much to the chagrin of her demonic brethrens. And, you know, she has all types of fun adventures and rips out some spines and stuff. It's a good time. She has like a hellhound. That's her sidekick. It's really a shame we didn't see her in that Avengers full moon style thing that I was talking about. She would have been a great addition to it too, alongside Dr. Mordred and Doll Man and, you know, Mandroid and the like. Invisible Benjamin Knight, you got to have him in there.
I'm sure she got some wicked powers on top of that too.
Oh yeah, basically what you would imagine a demonic princess type chick would have, you know. I don't know if she's a princess, but she's pretty hot, and fair amount of nudity in there too, which I can't complain about because she's a looker, man. And looks like they just had her walk down the streets of like New York or something naked, which I'm always a fan of that stuff in movies, not just for the nudity element, but it takes a lot of balls to have someone do that. I'm pretty sure Full Moon had the proper permits, unlike other movies we've seen where they didn't. But
well, they may act like a low budget studio, but they act like a higher budget studio. They kind of have that in between.
Yeah, that's basically the gist of it with Full Moon. I mean, they always had that. They are a low budget studio, always have been, but low budget in comparison. Like back in the 90s, they definitely had the Paramount money. They weren't doing trauma level productions.
I was gonna say these aren't the guerrilla level productions. Kind of like
no,
they run above board like most studios, but they do it with less cash.
exactly, and that's part of that Full Moon magic, man. I mean, it really took them like a decade in the early 2000s to figure out how to do it on that trauma level, but still give it that full moon flavor. You know what I mean? So that's, I mean, the more I dig into it, the less of a fan I am of stuff from that era. So, you know, my instincts growing up were right. The stuff is ass, but there is gems here and there. They figured it out in the 2010s, though. I'm grateful for that because it's given us the full moon that we have now. So in addition, this is my final pickup for the stack here. And this is just a movie called Trauma. I don't know too much about it. Looks like it's sounds like it's kind of like a Suspiria type gimmick, only instead of like a coven of witches knocking the girls off or whatever, it's like a coven of rich scumbags using them, like kind of sex trafficking them, it sounds like. And this, you know, chick that's going to this girls' school figures it out and gets involved with a young investigator, and they, you know, go about doing your standard sort of Euro horror mystery stuff. It definitely sounds better than the Tormentor and the Possessor. So looking forward to giving it a look all the same. Awesome cover art once again. Definitely kind of evocative or whatever of stuff that we've seen before, because this is knee deep in the sort of grindhouse slasher wave of the 70s. I don't know if you call them proper slashers back then yet. But, you know, all of this stuff is stuff that I was happy to knock off the list because it allowed me here over the course of the last week to place an order that completes Full Moon's labeled Grindhouse collection for me. You guys that have been following the channel know that we just put out our first review in the limited series for this collection for the Headless Eyes. Definitely worth checking out. And many more to come, obviously. I don't know if I'm going to do it monthly. It might end up turning into like a twice a month type thing, because if we do it monthly, it's going to take us like 2 years. So I don't know if I want to like ration them out that hard. You were going to say something there, bud?
Those guys look good together on a shelf, just all of them like back to back.
They really do. Just that the uniformity of like the labels and stuff. The only thing that you run into, where the hell is it? I think it's on the Possessor. No, maybe not. Maybe that's in my other batch. There's like one of them that randomly just says Full Moon's Grindhouse Flicks presents. All the other labeling is still the same. It's just on the cover it says Grindhouse Flicks presents instead of Full Moon's Grindhouse collection, because when they were running these, and you'll see an ad for it at the beginning of our Headless Eyes review, but they were really pushing one of their original streaming sites, which was grindhouseflix.com, where you could pay like $4 a month or something and watch all these shitty Grindhouse movies on the internet. And it, you know, they did a couple of original releases for it, like trailer-thon style, you know, releases. And those are neat and everything. It just bums me out that on that one movie, for some reason, they put Grindhouse Flicks Presents on the front, even though it wasn't one they made for the website.
Does it look the same on the spine, though?
Yeah. They, like I said, the other, I mean, because the logo is exactly the same too.
So that's,
it just says Grindhouse Flicks instead of Grindhouse Collection. You know?
Well, at least they look good on the shelf when you just see the spine out.
Yeah, you would never notice just glancing at them unless you were to pull it out and like.
Spine art, it really, I think people don't pay as much attention to spine art as they should. I'm looking for a good example in this list, but when you're looking at here, of course, you're not seeing it from this angle. You're seeing it from this angle.
Yeah.
So you really want something that'll grab your attention. And some of those, like Hideous, you can tell right there. Blood Dolls, you can say, ooh. Crash is showing you exactly what it's going to offer. I mean, Mordred's kind of like, not Mordred, the one next to Mordred's kind of like, what's that?
Well, dude, look at The Daytime Ended. That's my only gripe about that movie, is they didn't even fucking label the spine for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's what it is. The Daytime Ended, yeah. Which is
this is a good point here. Evan asked what happened to the old channel, and it's the same channel, dude. A lot of my old reviews are going to get remade now that I have better capture footage. I've basically just been trying to move this in a direction where when I start doing some short films here over the spring and stuff like that, I can, you know, kind of like market it outside of YouTube, but still promote it through YouTube. So it lines up better with that. Despite our last few streams, I've been drinking a lot less too and trying to make that lifestyle change. And it's, something I'm still working on, obviously, as I crack another fucking fireball. But it's just, I don't want to constantly be just associated with being a drunk dude. So it's kind of a couple of different levels. I think Retro Cult Home Video kind of encompasses everything I'm going to do and makes it a little bit more easy to print on the back of like homemade DVDs and Blu-rays, if that makes sense, Drunken Master Studios would work too, but it feels a little bit more streamlined for the type of stuff I'm going to be doing. Here soon, I'm going to start working on a short film with my cousin called Irritable Anus. So be looking forward to that. Many updates coming from that in the springtime. Probably be releasing that around the summer. So lots of cool stuff coming. And it was just generally a rebranding. None of the stuff that was done in the past is gone, so if anybody ever has like a nostalgic Mo review they want to check out, I can still kick you the link for it. I'm just going to be recutting a lot of the stuff with HD captured footage because I have the ability to do that now. So like all my old kaiju reviews are going to be recut and, same voiceover tracks and everything, just re-released with HD pristine quality footage, So if you're down, dude, we can look at my assorted print media here, because now that we are through the films, we just have, again, assorted print media. I've got a pretty cool art collection here, as well as several issues of Delirium Magazine, which this would be a good point to kind of put it out there to the people watching, now or in the future, of what Delirium is. So we'll get to that momentarily. Cheers, bud.
Cheers.
We're making hell a good time here.
Now, I've got this that I'm doing right now. The
what's that? Jameson cold brew?
Yep.
Amazing. How is it?
Actually, not that bad. It's a pretty decent mix of coffee and the other. I'm just kind of finishing it off, and that way it still won't hit me in the morning when I got to go to work.
It's a good time. I'm glad I started this early. Part of me was thinking about doing it in the evening, but I've got to put away a bunch of Christmas shit, and I didn't really want to, do that and then sit down to do this shit. All right, so first up here, we've got the Full Moon Art Collection, the Ultimate Franchise Library. This is one of two items that I think were meant to go along with the Full Moon Archive Collection, which those of you guys that saw the Full Moon Fan Fest that we did a while back, we did kind of briefly show it in honor of my buddy Andrew, because that was his favorite pick. Got some really cool little blade sitting back there reading the book. That's actually the logo for some, segments we're going to announce here soon. But essentially what it is it's just, you got your little forward by Charlie Band with the same photo they always use of him. And then it just, organized by franchise or genre, shows all of the poster art from Full Moon over the years, which you guys that follow my shit know that I love poster art. I love collecting the posters. Many more of those to come here in the near future. Got about 12 full-size posters I'm going to be ordering, along with some replicas next month. But they also have alternate posters for different things in there. Well, there you go, Brandon.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there. Positioned just right.
And they go together.
And it's just, that's basically what it is. It's the artwork with their numbers next to them and, little blurbs about what the stuff is. And I think that that's a really cool thing to have. It's like a neat coffee table reference book, if you will. If I want to show someone like rad poster art for one of these, I don't got to go find the movie on the shelf or anything like that. I can just pull out the book and be like, check it out. Look at that laser blast art. It's goofy, right? And my favorite thing about it, even though it's kind of fucked up, is they have the Moonbeam stuff here.
Wow.
Okay, this was definitely an oversight on whoever edited this. They got the Moonbeam stuff, their children's line of films, like literally right before the sexadelic sci-fi section. And then immediately after that, you get the Surrender Cinema stuff. It's like, how the fuck do you put it together like that, where the children's shit is sandwiched right there, almost between your softcore stuff. And then, of course, at the back, you've also got the Wizard video section. That's an element of Full Moon's or Charlie Band's history a lot of people kind of forget about, because it was just him releasing films like on VHS and stuff back in the day. Got the posters for several of the films that we actually just looked at there. Several of the films that I got coming in the future. But one of the coolest things is the checklist at the back, which, as far as I know, is the only time that the Full Moon numbered checklist of films has appeared in print. Now, I could be wrong on that. There could be an issue of Delirium that's got the numbered films list on there or whatever. But the only other way I've found to look at it is through the website. Now, this is kind of grossly out of date at this point because I believe that this came out back in 2014. I could be wrong. 2016, excuse me. But still a fun little piece of Full Moon collectability. A cool thing to just have around to pull out and let people flip through. And again, killer reference material if I'm ever needing to show someone a poster that I don't have on the wall or don't want to find the movie on the shelf. So that's pretty cool. We do have some, issues of Delirium that we're going to pound through here real quick, give you guys an idea what a lot of our monthly content is going to be like going forward. But before we get into that, Brandon, do you have anything on your immediate Full Moon wish list going forward? Any of the newer releases we've talked about lately or anything like that you find intriguing? Because we do got a good slate of stuff coming up for early 2022. We got Island of the Fishmen or whatever. We got Scorpion with Two Tails. Mansion of the Doomed just came out, which is Charlie Band's first horror film that he produced back in the day. Just lots of cool stuff, man. I mean, or anything that's streamed recently, like Baby Oopsie, any of that stuff you think you might end up getting?
Oh, Mansion of the Doomed sounds like one I would definitely pick up on one of the sales. Baby Oopsie, when that comes to physical, I'll probably get into that. And of course, my big wish list thing is Gingerweed Man. It needs to come to physical. It needs to release on physical.
They didn't put that in the box set?
No, Gingerweed Man is not there, just Ouija's.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
For some reason, I swore Gingerweed Man was going to be in there, but I imagine that's why they kind of ganked the Sterling box set idea and left the open room for more movies as they release them, because they're for sure doing more weed flicks. I think we're getting another Gingerweed Man movie.
I'm sure we'll get another Ouija's as well once they.
I really hope we do. I really wish that they had just retained the ability to make Ouija's Ghoulies 4, because that's what it should have been. I know I threw some shade on certain people involved in Ouija's the other night. I don't know. The more I look at that situation, I find it annoying. We're not going to get into it, but it's, yeah. Ouija's is great.
A true Ghoulies collection, because you get the first two. And the third one you can only find on a compilation set if you want on DVD. And the fourth one, though, that's standalone. That's still bare bones Blu-ray.
Or excuse me, yeah, Ghoulies 5 for Ouija's, not Ghoulies 4.
So I thought maybe you were disowning 4 or something.
No, I mean, I kind of disowned 3 and 4 in a lot of ways, but no, it was just oversight on my part. Ouija's is a Ghoulies movie. I don't know if you've watched it yet in your box set, but when you get to it, you'll totally see what I'm talking about. It is just Ghoulies with a weed veneer thrown over it, because Charlie's obsessed with that kind of shit.
Yeah, I just want to get. I need to get some Alice in Wonderland stuff watched because for Dane's upcoming.
Oh yeah,
and get that other. Then I'm back into used land again. So
I think for me, I mean, again, I kind of touched on it sloppily the other day, and Dave was having some coughing fits because he hasn't been feeling well, which is understandable. But my immediate wish list pretty much encompasses everything, that I talked about there. I really want Island of the Fishmen. I really want Scorpion with Two Tails. I really want to get the famous TNA sequel that they're putting out. I think it's really cool that Full Moon is going back and revisiting their erotica library and doing stuff like that. Of course, I'm going to get Baby Oopsie because I was a humongous fucking fan of that. I participated in both contests that they did for it. Didn't win shit, but I participated, and that's what counts. Definitely want to see them do the sequels to Resonator Miskatonic U like they promised. Obviously, Subspecies 5, when that finally drops, is going to be on the list. But in terms of immediate releases, definitely a lot of that Euro sleaze and like, you know, horror that they've been putting out is going to be getting got. I need to get Mansion of the Doomed. I still got to get my copy of Remote and Dragon World, and definitely those two films that they've put out so far through the Delirium Films label, which is appropriate. I mentioned that because we're about to talk about the magazine itself. I want them, dude. The first one was It Knows You're Alone, and the second one was Screams of the Blind Dead. They're very unique little films, you know, they're micro budget sort of like visual experiences, I guess. They're not really plot heavy. They're meant to invoke like that surreal dreamlike quality that a lot of Euro horror had back in the day. And they do a great job of doing that inside 40 minutes and making you feel like you saw something pretty fucking neat. So if they keep doing that, I'm a huge fan of it. And supposedly they're also going to be distributing other micro budget films through the Delirium Films label. So who knows? Maybe if I get some things together, might have a film on that Delirium label someday. Hit me up, Chris Alexander. I'd love to help with one too, or with the magazine, you know.
Shoot, get Full Moon in on it, and then like when you finish the complete collection, maybe they can release it as a box set. You know, the Full Moon Madness.
Hell yeah. Or even if they want to do me like they did Joe Blow and throw the stuff up on the streaming site, I'd be happy with that. Joe Blow's got like his Full Moon reviews on Full Moon streaming, which I think is pretty dope. He's easily the biggest dude outside of me. I'm not a big channel, but I've got a big library of Full Moon coverage. So narrowly below this other dude who does these reviews with like this plastic monster head. As soon as I get up to 39 reviews, I'll be over that guy. So it's coming. But on that note, we've got Delirium Magazine. I started collecting this. This is Full Moon's own like magazine. Essentially what it is Chris Alexander, who used to be a writer and editor for Fangoria, doing Fangoria again, but like old school style through Full Moon. Because I don't know if you guys have perused much new school Fangoria. It leaves much to be desired when you compare it to the old stuff. And it's nice that Chris Alexander has kind of revived that over here with Full Moon under the Delirium title. They don't just cover Full Moon stuff. They cover all types of shit outside of that. This particular first issue here, the main feature is Reanimator, which is an OG like Empire film. Well, we also got a feature on the music of Richard Band, Tourist Trap, Wizard Studios, The Velvet Vampire, Trophy Heads, and much, much more. They also do a Blue Underground segment, which is out of date for us now, but at the time would have been really cool to be able to keep track of what releases were coming out from Blue Underground. I don't know about you, man, but I've always really dug Blue Underground. They were kind of like... Those guys in Anchor Bay really kept it, you know, like the more obscure horror out there for a lot of us for a while. And I think they've got kind of lost in the shuffle nowadays with all these other boutique companies like Arrow and Scream Factory and things like that. But that's the OG goodness there, that Blue Underground and Anchor Bay dank for sure.
Well, I got a ton of those sitting in the set, but hey, you gotta keep the medium alive by any means.
For sure, dude. And then, you know, next up we've got Tombs of the Blind Dead main feature on issue 2. This also has Retro Puppet Master, Lurking Fear, Trophy Heads again, because they were like really plugging that at the time. They released it in chunks and then eventually compiled it into the best film of Full Moon's 2010 library. You also got Erotic Movie House with Kenneth J. Hall and Masumi Max. I haven't really flipped through this one yet. I imagine it's full of all types of other goodness as well. These are going to be covered on a monthly basis from now on. I've already got the one for Delirium issue 1 ready to roll. Typically, our monthly content is going to drop last Friday of every month. I threw the Headless Eyes one out there early just because I hadn't done anything but a live stream, and I thought it'd be a nice Christmas treat for those of you guys that give a shit about that stuff. But, you know, in the future, we're going to be doing this once a month. I've got 9 issues so far. another 10 on the way, and the final 10 will be on the way inside of a month, so I'll be up to date. So we've already got like 2 years plus worth of Delirium to go through, and that's totally cool. These I don't mind doing once a month because there's a lot to unpack in an issue of Delirium. Issue 3 here, we got Texas Chainsaw 40 Years of Terror as the main feature. We also got Wizards' legendary Texas Chainsaw Atari game unearthed, so a good feature on the Texas Chainsaw Atari game in there. We've also got one on the film Rats, which a lot of people have kind of forgot about, but is still pretty great. We got the art of Ryan Brookhart, TerraVision, Stan Lee, Ooga Booga, and The Dead Hate the Living, just soiling it at the end there. But yeah, you know, some quality stuff in here. This one you'll get a kick out of, Brandon. It's a Something Weird video exclusive.
Oh.
The Wizard of Gore Compels You. We got celebrating 25 years of strange and shocking cinema from Something Weird. We've also got an H.G. Lewis feature. We've got Frank Henenlotter remembers Mike Vraney. Thomerson Talks Trancers, which I'm really looking forward to. The History of Horror Comics. Chuck Russell on A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. The Blob. Axel Carolyn, Nivik Ogre, Mick Garris, and much, much more. So that sounds like a fucking packed issue right there. After that, we've got, you know, a Shockwaves issue. I don't know if you remember that, like, water zombie movie. I think I watched it once in, like, high school.
Yeah, long ago.
Didn't leave much of an impression on me, but it is one of the early Nazi zombie films. So without stuff like Shockwaves, we very well would not have gotten Dead Snow. We probably wouldn't have gotten the Nazi zombies mode on Call of Duty. I mean, there's a lot of things that this movie had, you know, a hand in. We also got a feature on Oasis of the Zombies versus Zombie Lake. Both those movies are fucking kind of terrible, so I'm not super stoked on that, but I'll check it out. We've also got a feature on Dawn of the Dead, Waxwork 2, Castle Freak, Tom Holland, Lynn Shay, and Tim Sullivan interviews. So, again, pretty stacked issue. If you notice, as we're reading through them here, a lot of the stuff is Full Moon stuff. A lot of the stuff is stuff Full Moon distributed at some point. But then a lot of the stuff is just stuff that, like, maybe these people had did something with Charlie Band at one point. So that's why he has an in with, like, getting Chris an interview with them or whatever. But they don't just do Full Moon stuff. And I think that's super rad. If they did, I would still be hyped on it. But I don't think it would have that same feel of being like Fangoria Reborn, if that makes sense, you know. We got a Jack the Ripper issue here. We're almost through these. Sorry if it's taken a long time, bud. Jack the Ripper issue, though, Klaus Kinski and Jess Franco's version of the film, which really is like a remake of one of his earlier movies that has almost nothing to do with Jack the Ripper. But then we also got Charles Band on working with Klaus Kinski in Crawl Space, which I imagine is just going to be a treat to read because Klaus was an absolute fucking psycho. Then we also got new Puppet Master comics being showcased in here. I'm assuming they're talking about the stuff they have currently available on the website. We got a feature on Record 4 Apocalypse, which I'm not really familiar with too many of those dot record movies or however you say that. I think I only saw the first one, and then wasn't it like Quarantine was the version they did of that first record movie here?
Yeah, Quarantine.
Yeah. And then we also got a Barbara Steele, William Sadler interview, or interviews for both of them. Evil Speak, which I kind of remember. And then a full section on Full Moon posters, which is interesting because every issue, much like Fangoria back in the day, includes a full like centerfold poster. So, you know, they're advertising a full section on Full Moon posters. I'm hoping that means we get multiples in there.
Yeah.
It feels pretty thick too when I give it a you know. And then in issue 7, we've got a Howling issue, which has nothing to fucking do with Full Moon. So that, I mean, that shows you that they're not just doing this shit as like sub features. They're also sometimes featuring movies they didn't even have a hand in at all as main features. Is it the greatest werewolf film ever made? No, it's not. But it's one of them. And then we also got, you know, Dante's latest chiller, Burying the X, which I never did get around to seeing. We also got a celebration from Trailers from Hell, that should interest you, Brandon. I know we're both big fans of Mad Ron's Trailers from Hell. That's a fucking classic trailer-thon. And then we also got Human Centipede 2. Shouts out to Dane. He actually just watched that for the first time today, and it seemed like he enjoyed it quite a bit. So lots of cool stuff there in our 7th issue of Delirium.
So,
2 more left to go. Oh,
I got a question for you.
What's that?
So, are you the kind of person as a collector that takes the posters out of the magazines when they present them so that you can display them as they're meant to be? Or are you the kind of collector that wants to preserve the pristine nature of the magazine and leaves the posters inside?
It's a very good question, man, and something that I've put a lot of thought into since starting with collecting the Delirium issues. So I think it's a little bit of both for me now. As a kid, I'd have ripped the shit out of there, no questions asked, put it up on the wall in a very haphazard fashion and been stoked on it. Nowadays, I very much realize that I kind of do want the main issues to stay pristine. But the beauty with this is usually when Full Moon does their sales, they 50% off all print media. So what I figure I'll do is I'll buy doubles of every issue during those 50% off sales so that I have issues specifically that I can just rip the posters out of and give the issue away to like my little cousin or something. Much like Fangoria back in the day and just every magazine ever, they never quite figured out a way to put that poster in there in such a way that you can take it out without like ripping out a page of a fucking article that's printed on the back of it, you know?
See, Nintendo Power had it right. You took the little staple. Now, first they were glued in, so it was, but you took the staple, you used some tweezers, you opened it up, the thing out, and you were able to preserve the magazine and keep the poster. Still, you kind of, it's still the magazine less the poster. I miss old Nintendo Power. That was a
right. Yeah, I mean, and it's, you know, like I said, I do want the posters out because I fully intend on framing them and hanging them in the Full Moon room down here. But I also intend on framing the pristine magazines. I've also already found like some really dope magazine frames. So every time that I cover one each month, it's going to get framed and then it's going to go on the wall. And then eventually I'm going to, you know, get, like I said, doubles of all of them during those sales. Take out the posters, give those issues to my cousin, and, you know, frame up those posters as well. So we'll likely have the whole wall over here will be Delirium shit eventually, which I think will be really rad. And then I can have my magazine rack like in front of the wall and have all my Deliriums set up. This one, issue 8. We got the exclusive Roger Corman on Sharktopus versus Whale Wolf. I know all you guys are desperate to get the inside scoop on that fucking turd. I'm looking forward to that one quite a bit. Then we also, it seems like a good time. I've not gotten around to those yet. We also got the Lady of the Night double feature, which I have no idea what that is. We got the Hazing with Melanie Roble. A Monkey Shines feature as well, which I always liked. Monkey Shines poster was scary as hell too. Remembering Cujo, which should be a lot of fun. We got Casper Van Dien, Bailey J, and much, much more. So not a bad issue. Probably their worst cover, if I'm honest. I don't know though. This next one, it's not one I'm super stoked on either because I fucking hate Gene Simmons, even though I really love Kiss. And that is just a Gene Simmons issue as the 9th issue there. You know, the horror of Gene Simmons, rock star, movie mogul, fan. So apparently he is a fan of horror films. I just don't trust the guy not to try to copyright everything because that's what Kiss does. They are very much the Coca-Cola of rock music, as Dane put it. And there's just no escaping the reality of that. It's fucking true. Outside of that, though, we also got John Harrison on Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. We have vigilante horror, which just sounds intriguing. They don't really, you know, elaborate. But then we also have interviews with Sybil Danning, Linnea Quigley, and then we have a subspecies feature, which is, I'm sure, going to be rad, and something called a Secret Santa segment, which I'm very intrigued by. So, you know, despite Gene Simmons...
There's a kick-ass cover, though.
It is, you know. Even though he's a gigantic douche nozzle, the makeup was cool. It's just a shame that he tried to fucking sue King Diamond for it, you dickhead. I'm never not going to throw shade on Gene Simmons because I think the guy is an absolutely massive tool. I used to not be as critical of him, but a couple of years back when he was shopping around the Gene Simmons vault and just being an absolute dick during every interview, it like got on my last nerve where those guys were concerned. I always thought it was pretty douchey how much infighting was within Kiss and how quick they were to try to like copyright anything that they could. But just hearing that asshole go on these like shows that were nice enough to put him on there to interview him and treat him like he's part of the current metal landscape and see him spend the whole time fucking hawking his lame overpriced box set. Just I can't stand the dude anymore after that. But yeah, lots of good issues of Delirium here. Lots of good content that it's going to bring us in the cup. Sorry if that was super loud. Lots of good content that it's going to bring us in the coming months. And like I said, I have 10 more issues on order. And then after that, I've only got to order, I think it's 8, but I could be wrong. It could be like 10 more issues. So one more Delirium order, and I will be caught up to date. I'd like to do a subscription, but I don't like the idea of single mags coming through the mail on their own. So I think I'm just going to wait and like once a year purchase that year's lot of Delirium issues, you know. As I already mentioned, we have like we're going to have over 2 years worth of issues to cover anyways. So
I mean, when you get started moving through things, you know, you can take your time unless you worry about going OOP. That's the only issue with the physical media is you think to yourself, is this still going to be in print? I think those will be, though. I mean, Full Moon forget about keeping things in print overall. Maybe some of the statues of questionable nature.
Yeah, some of their movies they slack on, but they do generally bring them back into print eventually. I'm still flabbergasted by Dave's single edition of Troll that he got as a free gift. That's clearly some old stock Full Moon's been sitting on. I like to think I deserved a copy of Troll, but I didn't get one. So I'm going to have to order it. It's only like $15 on Amazon, but the magazines, I'm not too worried about that stuff. I think that, you know, again, if I buy up to date with them and then just keep buying them once a year, I don't think I have to worry too much about them going out of print. Even if they do, they'll only be out of print for a couple of months by the time I end up getting around to buying them. So if they go out of print, that means Delirium's done, I'm pretty sure. And it sounds like Full Moon's putting a lot of, you know, shit behind Delirium at the moment. I mean, they just launched a whole brand new sub-label so that Chris Alexander can not only do the magazine, but he can go ahead and write and direct and compose music for his own little micro-budget Eurosleaze films, and I think that that's great. Hopefully it's not one of those things Full Moon has started that they're going to lose steam for here in the near future, and then we're just going to have like 3 movies and a few years worth of the magazine. Chris himself seems like a very enthusiastic dude, so I don't see that happening anytime soon. I think he'll keep it alive in his own way no matter what. I mean, Delirium itself, it publishes 4 times a year. So it's like a quarterly mag. It's been going since 2014. So he's, at this point, one of the longest tenured employees in Full Moon's current lineup of talent. So dude's not fucking around. Chris says to just get Troll 2. It's just as good. But does it have Sonny Bono? That's the question you have to ask yourself there. It is fucking awesome. I actually own both the movies already. I need that Full Moon single edition that Dave has because it has like the number on the spine and the Full Moon logo and everything.
Troll 2 is a special animal in and of itself.
It does have a Treyu in there from fucking Neverending Story, man.
I mean, I know I've got a copy of Troll 2 in that Empire set that they released.
Lucky son of a bitch.
I'm
so jealous of that.
I had to have because I've got a special edition of Troll 2, which I just couldn't, I couldn't give up the extras because Troll 2 was the extra for Troll in the Empire set, which that set is awesome in the fact that for some of the extras, they include feature films as the extra.
Yeah, it's dope, dude. Doesn't the special edition of Troll 2 also have the documentary, or am I tripping?
I'd have to get it out, but it's I
That
know it's called.
documentary was sick.
I do have a separate copy of that worst movie ever made or whatever, worst film, something like that. But
Which I dispute wholeheartedly. I don't think that Troll 2 is the worst movie ever made. It's got some weird elements to it.
best worst movie. That's I think
there you go. Yeah,
Which I think that's a good description. It's
yeah, that's fair.
Movies ever, yeah. Because there's no denying it's a terrible movie, but it's also well, I don't know. Is a movie really terrible if it brings?
I don't think it is. I think that Troll 2 is pretty. I mean, Chris says that the doc is better than the movie, and from a production standpoint, that very well is true. But I don't know, man. There's something about Troll 2's a creative movie when you really look at it. It's super creative idea. I mean,
when you're talking so bad it's good, it does not mean it's good, really, and truly in the end, because there are plenty of bad movies that are just plain bad. There's no saving it. There's no enjoying it. I mean, I know there was one that Jake and I both agree on called Artifacts, that was supposed to be some horror movie, but was the most boring thing both of us had watched, and we don't always agree. Well, we don't always agree. We have different tastes, and for both of us at the same time to just say, nah.
Yeah, that's a rarity. That's a rarity. I don't think I've ever seen you guys do that, actually.
Not just for gross out, because we will agree with that sometimes, but
Jake's getting a taste for it, though. There is stuff that Jake's starting to like a little bit in that, I think. Well, and there's a couple of offhand jokes he's made about shit that was like, yeah, he's getting the taste for it. If I knew Jake in high school, I bet you he'd be into splatter movies by now. Like, it'd be a thing that he liked. But I'd have had many years of drinking beer with him and like nudging him slowly into it, As it stands, we only get to do that like once every now and again when something one of us picks that's gory gets in there. But
just wait until I believe April is Dave's month. And I know he's going to be picking Bunny the Killer Thing, and that's going to be.
Chris says Troll 2 is uniquely weird. I've definitely seen worse flicks. Champagne and Bullets. I've not seen that one myself. I don't think I've even heard of it, to be honest.
Oh, shout out. Yeah, I am a fan of the channel. Old ass retro gamer, awesome channel.
Yeah, that's Chris. We just did a transfers episode, should be coming out tomorrow. Dude, what have you seen? Champagne and Bullets? That ring a bell to you, Brandon? Oof. That's probably for the best.
But it's one of those things that even if because my taste is so varied these days, you can't catch everything. And then I keep being told, well, why haven't you seen this classic movie or that? It's like, well, there's only so many I can catch at the same time.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's always weirdly movies that are in even my lane that I somehow haven't heard of that tons of other people seem to already be familiar with, which, it surprises me when it happens to other people, but obviously even more when it's myself. Like, how did I not know of that already?
Oh, I mean, I'm still hitting myself for the fact that I didn't see what was that movie? Gosh, I hate that. I blank when I'm on the air. Of course, that's what happens. The one about the cannibal, Silence of the Lambs, that I had not seen that until my mid-30s. And
oh wow,
that's just like that's just unheard of. That I'd never seen it. I had heard of it, but only because I remember the poster, and that was the only thing I had known about that during that time.
That poster was everywhere for a while.
I had come to it. I would have said I'd come to it entirely fresh, but I'd seen Manhunter years ago, so I had seen.
Still the superior movie to me. It's, I don't know, there's something about that neon sleaze of Manhunter that, as you well know, would immediately appeal to me.
Technically, it's my favorite Hannibal Lecter, even though that's blasphemy, but
Yeah, fuck it, dude. Manhunter is just a better movie, I think. I don't know. So Chris says, we watched Champagne and Bullets last week for the podcast. It's available through Vinegar Syndrome. The lead actor was a real estate mogul who wanted to be an action star, so he made himself one. On principle, I love that, but it also sounds like it has high potential to be abysmal ass. So
I love Vinegar Syndrome.
You never know.
Though, and if you ever see in my channel, we're going to have some pickups from Vinegar Syndrome in the future. Once I get those Black Friday picks.
Excuse me.
The problem with Vinegar Syndrome is that they tend to keep things at a high price point. But on the other end, so long as you're not looking for like the really nice sets, like I got the really nice one, six string samurai the other day. Say that 5
Yeah,
times.
it is a nice one.
If you're just looking for the straight out Blu-ray of it, you can get it for a reasonable price, and they usually keep them in print. And films that Vinegar Syndrome rescues from obscurity, it's just it is great.
It is. It's just they do have a steeper price point. I feel like Code Red is another one of those where the price is like not what you would like. I'm not trying to spend usually $35 on one movie, even if it's in like a steelbook or some shit. But if it's just like a movie in a Blu-ray case, I don't care how fucking low budget and independent it is. I'm not gonna pay that. It just is not. I can't. Maybe I'm spoiled from Full Moon, where like a brand new Blu-ray release from them is like maybe $16. I don't know. I guess like the Arrow stuff, some of those single editions are kind of spendy, but I wouldn't buy those either. Like I don't give a shit about how nice the set is for Tremors. I'm not gonna buy it just to have Tremors. Give me the shitty sequels too. If I'm gonna.
Oh, Tremors had that. Of course, Shrieker Island came out and ruined it, but they had.
I haven't seen that yet.
They had that beautiful steelbook.
Oh, you're talking about the number, yeah.
All of them except for the last one, and that's freaking amazing. And the same thing with what was it, Sharknado? They released a really awesome one. And yes, Kino Lorber is an amazing thing. When they have sales, I usually end up jumping on them. Right now, I am pretending that sales don't exist. My last purchase of the year was made, and it's probably going to be the last one I make for a while, unless I see something going to OP for months.
I think Dane got something from them, like Citizen Kane. That's what it was.
They rescue a lot.
That might have been a Criterion for the Citizen Kane one.
Yes, yeah,
where it's 4K. Just a big K on it.
Yeah. My wife got me that for for Christmas, which was really nice.
Yeah, Kino's dope. I had more releases from them than I realized.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times, honestly, I don't really look at that or wasn't doing it for a long time. So I would just look at if the movie was like, in the proper aspect ratio and what special features it had. I wasn't really paying attention to who was doing it. So I had a bunch of like Shout and Shout Select releases and some Kino Lorber stuff that I didn't even realize, I didn't think about that. Oh, it's that everyone's always talking about.
Kino is freaking amazing. The variety of what they cover on their channel. And when you get into one of their sales, that's how I got some of my stuff. I upgraded Real Men with Belushi and what's his name, Ritter, I think it is. With that one, which is really awesome. They did I think they brought Stay Tuned back from the dead, which was pretty cool. They released a really early Benny Hill film not long ago, and these Jewish contemporary pieces that they did during pre-World War II, during like that early 30s type area in Germany. That's pretty cool, watching Jewish cinema during the time when the Third Reich was looming. That's pretty impressive.
Indeed. I think most of mine are horror. The one that I know jumps right to mind is my copy of what the hell is it? Cannibal Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
with John Saxon and shit, where they're like Vietnam cannibals running around the city. It's okay. It's not the greatest.
They've got that one cannibal, not Cannibal Holocaust, something Holocaust, Jungle Holocaust. They released
Yeah, there
that.
you go.
Yeah,
That's a good movie. I like that better than the Cannibal Apocalypse. But I love John Saxon, so anything he wants to do, I'm gonna watch it. But Cannibal Apocalypse was definitely creative. It just, I don't know, maybe I did appreciate it seeing it more recently, but as a teenager, I was like, "Where's all the gore? This is fucking lame." John Saxon's just in there with a bad hairline, like always, and now though, I do actually think it's pretty creative, but still, bad title.
I'm just glad that I've got these. This alone would be a worthy watch fest right here.
Oh yeah, that's a solid full moon marathon. Good mixture of like early 70s or this earlier 70s stuff with like, mid-range, like golden era full moon stuff and a few late 90s gems. I mean, that's the perfect full moon marathon, really. I don't know. I kind of was thinking about doing some videos at some point, and I guess this is a good point to talk about like the new segments that are going to be coming and briefly touch on the new schedule that we're going to be on once the new year rolls around. But I do want to eventually do like a full moon 101 video where I do like 10 movies that if you wanted to take someone who'd never seen a full moon movie and turn them into a fairly knowledgeable fan of full moon and their different flavors, those would be the 10 movies that you would show them. I thought that sounded like a fun and kind of useful video for people that want to introduce folks to this stuff. Obviously, we're going to be doing though other bonus segments, like one on the Puppet Wars trilogy, the Puppet Master game, which I do actually have shot, but I'm still waiting for a couple more updates to see what they're, because I'd hate to release one talking about like the demo version of the game. Actually, I don't give a fuck, we're going to do that one, and then we'll talk about the game when it actually releases as well.
So you need to do like a live stream of you playing the game.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Probably get a few of you guys in on it too. I mean, it's not something you need like a heavy computer to be able to play. So we've obviously got stuff like that, and then the top 10 videos that I've been thinking about, like top 10 full moon females, top 10 full moon villains. Stuff like that is going to be coming over the course of the next year. But as far as more regular content, we've got our 3 monthly segments that we're going to be doing. Full Moon Grindhouse Theater might turn into a twice a month type thing just to get it done sooner. But we got Full Moon Grindhouse Theater where we're covering all the sleazy, greasy films of their Grindhouse collection. Then we got, Delirium, which we're going to be covering an issue of every month. And then in addition to that, I'm going to be doing these Full Moon News Flash segments, which are basically just to help people out that don't like stay up to date with the Full Moon newsletter. So at the end of every month, like last Friday of every month, I'll go through all of the news flashes they put out for that month and just put it in like a 10-minute video so people can look at it and be like, all right, this is the stuff that's coming out. This is what I need to look forward to. Check out on the streaming sites or be prepared to purchase physically. So I think that'll be helpful. And then in addition to that, with our regular content, we are going to be going on to a new sort of schedule. We're just going to do Full Moon Fridays. It's like the obvious thing to do, So our regular like reviews for any given wave of reviews are just going to come out on Fridays. And then the last Friday of every month, you'll get like a bonus pack of all of our monthly content. So that's basically how that's going to work. Obviously, we're going to try to cover a lot of the franchises over the next year so that I can get those out of the way and kind of work into, odds and ends in between. Definitely Brandon was wanting to join me for the Evil Bong reviews, which we're going to try to do for April. So that's something you guys can look forward to. Yeah. And I don't know, outside of that, just lots more collecting. I mean, in terms of like, stuff that I'm going to be buying over the next year, we got some more replicas coming in, which you guys will see some of those in a future stream in the very near future. And then we're also working on a lot of soundtracks. We're going to be starting to work on the Laserdisc and VHS end of the collection and banging out all types of like oddball collectibles that I haven't got to yet. So still tons more crazy shit to come in this fall haul extravaganza. We got a whole replica video that we have to do. We got a whole stream covering other like Puppet Master related, collectibles. And we got some cereal boxes and assorted other collectibles to look at too. So lots of fun stuff. We went through the bulk of the movies the other night, and that went good for the most part. I think this one went much better. So thank you for joining me for sure, Brandon. I don't know. What was your most recent full moon watch? What was your favorite new full moon movie you've seen over the last year? And what do you have to plug for us tonight, my good sir?
Well, okay, finally, camera does not adjust very well. I was trying to keep the cat from eating my feet. So
Right.
that'll be a little bit blurry because the only way I can get it to stop being blurry is to, let me see if I can stop the camera there, and then, nope, it does not like the,
It looks like it's starting to autofocus again.
it just doesn't like to focus on things. Well, we'll just say it's a little bit blurry for this particular stand. As far as recent full moon, I have not watched a lot recently. I'd say the most recent thing I watched was I did do some Puppet Master viewing not long ago.
Nice.
I've been wanting to dig into that Blu-ray collection that I have and just watch all the films over again. I haven't watched the last 3 of them, so I wanted to get into that.
Ooh, nice.
That new Blade movie that they released,
Iron Cross.
Iron Cross was actually at the Dollar Tree of all places on Blu-ray.
I saw that, or I didn't see it, but I saw that you posted about that. That's pretty awesome.
That was a strange thing there. And as far as upcoming, my channel's got some upcoming cool stuff on Septum Sen versus the World. I mean, on Monday, we're doing a discussion about the Gregory Horror Show. I'm going to take this off of the camera because it just looks blurry. You can just see my...
we'll just go back to group mode, dude.
So,
fun. Smaller resolution and all that.
Yeah. But the as far as that, we've got the Gregory Horror Show discussion come up. That's kind of a cool, cheesy horror anime series that's just going to be fun, I think, to discuss.
Yeah, so, it's going to be a rad time.
That'll be interesting. And next year, I'm going to be trying to. I did a recent short update, short review on the Bad Ben Christmas special, which is going to be awesome. I'm hoping to get a monthly Bad Ben deep dive going to where I have some discussions. Hoping to pull maybe Jake, maybe get you in on it if you're still up for it. And even my wife might come in for a couple because she's a fan of the Bad Ben films. And also my hope is to start working on doing some deep dive segments. I really want to hit Dakota Ray's new movie as one of my first experimentals on it, where I deep dive into it, do a basic review at first, and then hit a deep dive play-by-play and see how that works with films. But I want to just cover those films that people don't get to hear about. Films like Dakota Ray's, or the Polonia Brothers, or things like that are good on the small scenes, but you don't see a ton of people reviewing them.
Exactly. That's kind of what I was thinking with the whole Seaverthon thing, was to try to just get more people having fun with these movies that, you don't really see people trying to go out and take an actual look at,
All I had to do is turn the cap on, take it off, and then I was forced to refocus.
Hey, well, now you know, man, and knowing is half the battle. What else? We're talking about what the hell is the movie for Tuesday?
Tuesday,
White Christmas, isn't it?
White Christmas, yeah. We're hitting the last of our Christmas month, and then we've got that Accidentally Scary coming up for Inside Movies Galore, which is going to be fun. But after that, we're going headlong into the channel's 5th year anniversary celebration, where each of us takes a month and runs with it. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I think as a party for our 5th anniversary, we could do much worse. To tell you the truth, we're going to try and get Jake to watch Sallow and gosh, what was the other one? Oh, Callous of a Thousand Corpses, which will be interesting because those were the first films on the channel, which is going to be cool because I wasn't
that'll be
I
neat.
was there within the first year, but I wasn't there at first, so I'm glad to be in there.
I still got a hell of a line. I mean, dude, my lineup's pretty much already cemented. You know, we're gonna do Sonny Chiba's The Street Fighter, Lone Wolf and Cub. Then we're gonna do Hawk the Slayer. Then we're gonna do Planet of Dinosaurs. And then I think my horror selection was Razorback, which is like a giant killer pig movie from Australia back in the day. Chris is saying right there, you know, if we ever need a guest on Inside Movies Galore to grab him up, and Chris would be an amazing guest.
Just hit up Dave. I know that our slots.
Yeah, I'll talk to Dave about it, and you'll probably hear from him in like a day or two.
But we usually have enough room for like 1 or 2 people as guests as time goes on, because we got like 8 regular cast members, 7, and I've got 10 slots, and depending on if I can hit up the money for that that renewal of our StreamYard thing, it might go down to 6.
Shit, I'd sit out so Chris could sit in there. He'd probably be a better guest than me. It's definitely something we should consider. Like I said, I'll talk to Dave about it. It's a fun group. I enjoy doing it.
Oh, yeah.
We definitely got to get you on a Cinema Slut episode one of these days, Chris. That's where you just sit down with just me and we talk as long as you want about a movie. It's pretty fun. You know, it's cool to have the round robin group thing going on, but I also do like the idea of being able to just talk to you guys individually about a movie. So I'm sure we'll get some of that going on in the coming year as well. Most of my year is going to be taken up with Full Moon Madness, if I'm honest, outside of that Seabrathon and like some box set reviews. If I'm going to review something typically for like the next year outside of Full Moon, it's going to be because it's part of like a director's collection or a box set. Because I figure if I can get kind of up to date on all that shit, I don't have to worry about like taking some time aside to, you know, just talk about like some random shitty movie or something that isn't related to the other stuff. And that's what it's all about, Chris. You know, I think far too many podcasts focus solely on whatever is the current new thing to do, and I really don't gravitate to any of that shit. That's why I just end up listening to like Godzilla podcasts, because then they're going to talk about all the movies, even the shitty ones. Most of the time I feel like a lot of people, when they talk about like a shitty movie, they do it to do like the YouTube personality thing where they're doing it ironically, humorously, you know, not because they actually like the movie. I don't like all of them either, man. I mean, there's plenty of Full Moon movies that I kind of fucking really don't like that we are going to have to talk about eventually. And even though the video is yet to be recut in HD, my Automaton Transfusion review that I did was not kind to that motherfucker either.
Well, you weren't all that kind to Hate the Living either.
No. Yeah, that's so far the worst one I've had to review, because I've been real selective, but we're going to start doing it to where I have to review those shitty ones a lot more often as well.
You got to mix a couple in there, because otherwise you're going to get to the end and it's just going to be nothing but the ones you hate at the end.
Pretty much. That's really where the thinking is going with Full Moon Madness for the next year, is lock it into the long haul. You know, I had a fun year of just haphazardly putting out content, but if I'm going to do this thing properly, I got to go into it, and I got to think about the long term. I got to think about rationing the stuff, getting more crowd interaction going, hence the live streams, and, you know, people being able to pick what franchises we cover. Evil Bong, obviously, we're going to lock in for you in April, but, you know, that way I can eventually get it to where I'm just doing a Full Moon review every week, and then, you know, my bonus content, and it allows me time to do other stuff as well, if I've got it scheduled like that. So that's kind of the idea. Dude, I swear that Chris is not the only person I've heard mention getting berated by that dude for badly reviewing the movie. That was kind of half the reason that I like did it, was I was like, it can't be that bad. And then I did it and I was like, yo, it's that bad. And so I fucking kind of tore it down, you know? because it's just obnoxious. It is a truly obnoxious film. It feels like it was made by people trying to prove that they're super edgy horror fans or something, and it's just got a gross quality to it.
A good horror director can take criticism, or just a good director in general can take some criticism and
that is true. That is true, Chris. He did direct that, and that I actually enjoyed. So
that was an awesome movie.
Yeah. I don't know what well, obviously his fucking face was less affixed to his own ass, I'm sure, by the time he did the Silent Night remake. But I mean, I don't know. Am I mad at the dude for probably just being a super cocky teenage horror fan that made it an obnoxious movie? Sort of, but I'm not like really mad at him. He's probably fine. The movie just sucks ass through a straw. So it's, I wasn't gonna like lie about that. Doom Asylum is another one that I think gets an undue amount of love because the movie sucks. And that's like right there in that classic 80s slasher sort of area where people nowadays, I guess, tend to praise a lot of them more often than they should. But Doom Asylum's like the worst offender. It's got that lady from Friends and she takes a skill saw to the face. That's like the coolest part of it.
I mean, that's why I got so into Anne Hedenia and Evan Jacobs, because that guy can take it good or bad. Because I reamed some of his movies. I mean, I told like some of these movies were downright terrible, but he was all for it. I mean, that's what I liked about John Johnson with his movies. When I came in with my series for Skeleton Key and talked shit about his movies, for the most part, his first thing was like, oh man, didn't get it this time, but the next movie, that's going to get you into it, and you're going to really love it. And then, I really did like it by the last two movies, but it was, but those first, oh my gosh, those first two just.
So I guess Automaton was that guy's final film school then why is he getting all defensive about it? It was fucking homework that he handed in, and he's trying to berate people on the internet for it. What a tool!
Hey, people get really like get really protective.
Chill the fuck out.
They get protective of their art house projects.
See, that's why I like guys like Chris, because Chris Seaver, he'll just tell you that they're shit. Like, he knows that they're shit. He made them knowing they were shit. He just does it because they're fun. You can make something that's shit and still have it be fun.
Yeah.
I've seen dozens of movies that are just like Automaton Transfusion. They were just actually fucking fun to watch. That was the issue with the movie, was that it just wasn't fucking fun to watch. It had some cool gore scenes in it too. I mean, I bought it at a time in my life where usually that's all you had to do to sell me on a movie, was just have like disgusting scenes of gore. But the way it's shot and the jokes and the dialogue and it feels like hanging out with a bunch of edgy kids who only shop at Hot Topic and know like 10 horror films, but decided that they were going to make a splatter movie. And I get that maybe that dude, if he was going to film school, probably knew a lot more than that. But the people he populated the thing with were like really bad Grand Theft Auto characters almost, or something. I don't know.
It's like that movie, Grave Encounters 2. The main character is a director in film school, and he's a wannabe horror guy. And the horror movie he's making is campy as hell. The movie within the movie is some of the best parts of that film.
See, I mean, it feels, I've never made like a full movie, but I've watched enough movies, I feel like, to think that, especially when it comes to campy shit, there's a point in the project where this isn't going to work as a serious film, so I just have to let it be campy. And probably day 1 or 2 or something with your cast, and you're out there actually executing this idea, and you're like, oh yeah, this is not going to go the way that I planned. So given who I'm working with and what we're working with, we're going to have to just play it for fun. I don't know. That just seems like smart decisions on a movie set. It's these people that don't get that make some of the most unintentionally hilarious movies ever created. But they have to just embrace that after the fact. Then you can't be like, I'm going to get mad about it. And I guess to their credit, most people don't, but that dude does, because he just knows Automaton sucked. The DVD cover did sell me on it too. It's like a dude ripped in half or something, like crawling along the ground, looking like he's in agony. And at the time, I definitely was big into collecting those Dimension Extreme movies too, because most of them were pretty not bad, you know. Some of them are even amazing. That one's not among them though, and Milk definitely was a bad choice.
Yeah, that cover definitely could sell most people.
Yeah, especially if you're like a splatter fiend kid. Dude, I should have been the target demographic for that. At the time, I probably was like a cringy metalhead kid that was like, splatter rules. Like, if it's not splatterific, I don't give a shit. I was a real idiot about horror films for a while. And even then, I was like, this is cringier than I am. I got to check out. The only reason it's still in my collection is because I needed it in there to have all the fucking. I think Martyrs was a Dimension Extreme one, unless it was one of those sort of vaguely similar labels, because there was several of those going on too at the time. But I feel like that original Martyrs, because they remade that, didn't they?
I remember they had like several of these types of ones, like Dimension Extreme. They had this one.
Inside is one.
Production was a good one that did some of this fun film.
Black Sheep was for sure a Dimension Extreme, and Inside, like Chris mentioned there. Inside's probably Inside, Broken, and Black Sheep are probably my favorite Dimension Extreme movies. They still hold up too. Like I've rewatched all three recently, and
I don't know why I thought of that. There's a movie that was out there that starred a band called Lordy, a metal band.
Oh God, I know what you're talking about.
I can't think of the name of it. It was very Silent Hill vibes, but it was
Lordy is like Diet Guar, is basically sugar-free guar.
Their music is pretty damn good, but
yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like in general.
Yeah, they're not as over the top as Guar, but can you really go as over the top as Guar?
Not without getting gross, you know. Black Sheep was fucking awesome. It's still awesome. I think that's one that is another one that kind of boggles my mind why I don't see it mentioned a lot more often in a lot of the horror groups that I'm in, because it should be regular revisit for people. I mean,
I'm not a tree, I'm a fucking sheep. One of my favorite lines.
Did you guys ever see Broken?
Oh yeah, that's the one that had the cover with the woman that like has like her head looked like her head caved in like glass, like as a puppet or something like that.
I don't know if that's the cover I have was the one where it's like her stomach and you slip it open and the title's like in her guts. Basically, this dude like captures these women and sews a razor blade into their stomach and like hangs them from a noose in the woods. And basically, like if they can survive and not, end up just falling off of like this precarious little stump perch and hanging themselves, if they instead like decide to rip their stomach open and get this razor blade and saw through the rope, then they're like strong enough to be in his harem of women or something like that. It's one of those like people abduct people type flicks. It's got one of the most heart-wrenching like fuck you endings that I've ever seen though, and that's just always stuck with me. And then the movie itself is nuts. You know?
That's why I was mixing up with the 8 films to die for. The Broken, different movie.
Feast, yeah, I don't think that
Feast were under that label.
Was that Dimension Extreme, or are you talking about the other one?
I think the 2 and 3 were definitely under Dimension Extreme. Like Pulse 2 and 3 were under that.
Yeah, I don't think the first one was. I
don't think the first was, but the other 2 were.
I mean, maybe retroactively it could have ended up there.
I didn't. I mean, that was one of those few times that you looked at some of those films and you think to yourself, these films feel like they're not supposed to be official sequels. They have that feel like they're unofficial sequels, but they are official sequels. So it's kind of fun like that.
See, I still haven't seen them. I've only ever seen the first one, and I love it. I mean, I still have my copy, and I don't watch it frequently, but like every few years, I guess.
They're great. And the ending, the way they end the trilogy is hilarious. It comes
definitely. I've got to upgrade and get the set or something at some point. What else was Dimension Extreme? The Zombie Diaries movies were.
Yeah, they were good.
Yeah, they were pretty good. Yeah, there was several. I mean, it wasn't a huge. What was that one? It was an Asian horror film.
The
It was like
Hellraiser, terrible Hellraiser movie was the one.
that. Well, we don't talk about that. But this one was, I think it was called 13 Game of Death. Was
Yes.
another cool one where it was kind of like that Michael Douglas movie, only super fucked up. And then there was that other one, Bloody Reunion, I think was a Dimension Extreme as well, wasn't it?
Looking at
Where it's like these kids all take revenge on their teacher they thought abused them or something, but then it's like the story. I don't remember it all exactly. 13 Game of Death was like more memorable.
They did a ton of movies. I mean, they had the Children of the Corn sequel, Genesis.
See, maybe I just blocked those out because I wasn't really too concerned with what they were doing that was like sequels, I guess. Maybe one of the Wrong Turns was on there. Did you just say that? I feel like that kind of rings a bell because you mean it just, I don't know. The ones that they did that I was interested in were the ones that were, the ones that were actually like, it felt like original horror movies. Dude, that's not a bad idea there, Chris. That is not a bad idea at all. I don't know if I've seen anybody specifically cover those.
That would be an interesting deep dive going into those.
Some great stuff, some turds. It's a good mixture of all of it. God damn it, what is this? Turn around and face me. There you go. I don't want the ass. Come on. Still holiday weekend. Give me a break.
Little kid.
Here we go. Yeah, that's a good variety of films there, the Dimension Extreme stuff. And then there's those other labels like that Ghost House you were talking about, or what were those Films to Die For about?
The Horror Fest was. I mean, they had. I really wish I had more freedom at the time, because they were doing these big get-togethers for the releases, film festivals. And the first one, they're supposed to be like too extreme to be allowed to see seen in theaters, and they did three seasons of them. And then they came back for a set of them, which a lot of those are out of print now, which is sad. It just, they were a fun set of films. I mean, not all of them were good, but they were all fairly creative. I mean, there were some that I really liked in that set.
Chris says he wants to be on the Automaton video so he can rant about that and see if that dude gets triggered again. I'd love that, man. I was kind of looking for it when I did my review, but I don't know. Maybe it didn't. Well, I wasn't getting views in the right groups back then or something because he never got on my shit. Also, I don't know. I guess I didn't really rip him a new ass or anything. I definitely was not, like kissing his ass either, though. It's a shit movie. It really fucking is. What's another one? IFC Midnight. I tend to like a lot of the stuff that they've done.
Yeah.
Got some really good ones. I think I'm Not a Serial Killer or whatever. That's a really good one with Christopher Lloyd in there playing like some alien that kills people, but the neighbor kid thinks he's a serial killer, and it's a fucking weird movie, dude. But I really enjoyed it. Wasn't that movie The Voices with Ryan Reynolds like an IFC Midnight movie, or am I tripping?
I think it was.
That was a really good one too.
I need to see it. I have it. I just have not watched it. There was one that was called the Man-Eater series, which was interesting, which had several fun ones like Croc and Blood Monkey and
that car one. Yeah, I know. I think what you're talking. And then I don't know if the High Plains Invaders was one of those. I think it might be actually.
Hive. I'm looking at this list.
It's like War of the Worlds in the Wild West or some shit, or Starship Troopers, or I don't know how you would explain it, but it's a fun one. High Plains Invader.
They did 27 releases. That's still pretty decent.
Well, name some other ones. Man the Fort. I will be back just momentarily.
Let's see, the Hollow, Rise of the Gargoyles. The Man-Eater was particularly fun because it made it sound like it was going to be one of those one of those kid befriends the monster type movies, and then ended up being a not so much on that, where the where it turns out like you would think it would turn out when you had that. I noticed that. Let's see here, but yeah, I think that these collections were pretty fun, and in general, I think the collections like that. These little studios, they do a lot of fun releases. I remember getting that Ghost House set like that.
I feel like I have one or two of those movies to die for. Sorry, go ahead.
That was that one in the like hotel, right? Where they was the Japanese one, or was that the Russian one where it was like the? I'm trying to remember. There was the problem is you're not gonna catch like one of the same thing. Like one of my favorites on the new releases was called Lumberjack Man, and about a guy.
Sounds awesome.
Oh, I mean, it was great. It's about this dude. It's it's one of those camp slasher things, but
Right.
the slasher is a dude who carries around a wheelbarrow filled with pancakes and
Fuck
uses the
yeah,
blood of
dude.
the victims as the syrup. I mean,
I was immediately hoping there was going to be pancakes involved because lumberjacks, flapjacks, like
I don't. It's just so weird.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I think I feel like Masters of Horror is one that I kind of almost, even though it was a series, I kind of almost think of it in the same way as like Dimension Extreme or IFC Midnight or any of those other ones where it was just kind of really more of like a label that these short horror films were published under. And there were some really good ones in there, man. Some of my favorite horror of like that decade came from
the Master of Horror series.
Yeah.
Well, I love Cigarette Burns. That was a freaking awesome one.
Or what was it, Jennifer?
It's kind of ironic that you mentioned Cigarette Burns because that was the one I found I think I found that as maybe one of the least interesting entries in the whole series, ironically.
Chris says all it needs is that kid from Cabin Fever doing kung fu screaming pancakes.
I think my favorite might have been Incident Off and On a Mountain Road. That
was a really good one.
First episode, that was the Don Coscarelli one. Like that was maybe my favorite.
And again,
Pelts was a really good one too. Pelts with Meatloaf, where he like pulls off his fat skin like a skin sweater.
Really good.
I like that Edgar Allan Poe one that they did. Was it Black Cat or something like that? I can't remember what it's called. But
Hakel's Tale, that's a fucking really good one too.
I'm trying to remember the name of the one with the two serial killers that were like competing against each other. I can't remember that one.
What was that? Was a really fucking good one too. So many good ones on there. I mean, Masters of Horror really came at a time too where like a lot of us that like the type of horror we like were kind of hurting for the type of horror we like,
Exactly.
And Masters of Horror was
I caught
it
I got it at least 10 years after the fact.
Oh, I was in the thick of it, bro. It was great.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have the individual releases for season 2, because my season.
I have the Skull and the Crypt releases.
I have those.
I'm pretty proud of that.
They don't.
They're nice.
They're not very good for how they treat the DVDs in either of those sets. And me, I prefer having a set to watch and then the set to display. And the nicer ones are the sets to display, and the regular releases, which don't scratch the crap out of the DVDs, are the ones I.
The Skull's pretty good at keeping the.
You got. Oh, sorry, dude. You got a favorite Masters of Horror episode there, Chris? I'm sure you're the dude that's still watching, probably.
Actually, let me take a look at the episode list. I bet I can probably find it.
Well, I might actually, if you're good with it, I might drop out. I got to put away some groceries, but. Thank you for having me on tonight, though.
Yeah, for sure. We're probably gonna drop this one anyways. We're hitting that 2-hour mark, so we're gonna either recreate it as general horror talk or just move it into a social call. So, thank you guys for that. Have watched up to this point. Chris says his favorite is also Cigarette Burns.
Awesome.
Moment to show it there. John Carpenter is one of my dudes as well. He also rocks a fine mustache on most occasions, and I'm definitely a fan of that kind of shit. I like your style, Johnny.
So, the Washingtonians, Dear Woman, and Pick Me Up were some of my favorite episodes of Masters of
Those
Horror.
were good too.
I just went and looked those up. Pick Me Up was the serial killer one we were thinking of.
I feel like more often than not they were good, you know. But yeah, thanks
they
again.
Definitely had duds. Like we can't deny that they had dud episodes.
Oh no, not at all. So we are going to close this out because we're hitting the 2-hour stream on or 2-hour mark on our full moon stream here. But if you'd like, we are going to continue it into just a general horror call. If we can get like, I don't know. Actually, we could probably just run it ourselves, and if anyone else wants to join, they're free to do so. So you down for that, Dustin?
Yeah, sure. Do stuff to me.
I mean, I can leave myself on and head back after, but I gotta go put groceries away.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure. If you want to jump back in, awesome. We'll throw the link into the chat there.
Yeah, I'm just grinding stuff on Arc, so I've got nobody to talk to and nothing to really listen to. So
oh yeah, we'll get something going.
I've been watching reaction videos on YouTube and kind of wasting my time doing so.
Fuck yeah. I don't watch those, but I watch a lot of skate videos, and I imagine that you fall into a similar rut sometimes where it's like, damn, I've been doing this for like 3 hours.
Worse than that, actually, but yes. More or less the same.
You know, cheers to those of you guys that hung out for our full moon content tonight. We will be doing other streams later in the week. I do have some really cool stuff that I'd like to show off. You guys are free to join as always. Especially for that replica one, you might want to be on there, Brandon, if you have the time. Because we got to take a good deep look at those. Plenty of other, collectibles, lots of Puppet Master stuff. And yeah, it's just, we got several more of these to go before we dive into our regular weekly content again for the new year. So look forward to it. Feel free to drop by and put your comments in when we're live or watch them after the fact. Either way is fine by us. But
I got a lot
as
of
always,
last one.
You did. As always, I've been Mosley. You've been a bunch of sexy beasts. This has been yet another episode of that full moon madness, baby. Cheers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here next time.